Welcome back to the Zero Michigan podcast. I'm Carl Bloss. My guest today is Bethany Tabor from Consumers Energy. So, Bethany, if you'd introduce yourself, we'll get the conversation started.
Great. Thanks, Carl. Happy to be here. I'm Bethany Tabor with Consumers Energy. So, my official title is the manager of our commercial electric transportation programs. I'm excited to share that I was the person who found and recruited Carl Bloss to the Consumers Energy team a few years ago. And I want to joke with Carl that that's one of the bullets on my resume. So, super happy to be here and happy to have this conversation with you.
Well, thanks for being here. Well, you beat me to it.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, you were my first supervisor at Consumers Energy, and we had a super working relationship, small group. We did a little bit of everything, and it's amazing, really, how things have grown and how many people you have on the team. And so now I was able to step back, and there are people that cover that. I'm sure you're going to say not as well as I do, but I don't want to throw anybody under the
Absolutely. No.
bus. No, it's not like that. You got a great team, and
We
so
sure do.
yeah, and there are going to be events, but what I want to talk about today is kind of the area that you're responsible for, which is the commercial EV programs, which when I was there was PowerMIDrive and PowerMIFleet, unless something has changed. So that's kind of what I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
First of all, with DC fast charging, give us an overview of what's going on in that space. I know there have been some new developments in terms of the NEVI funding and Tesla and NACS, and so give us a little bit of a rundown where things are at from a consumer's energy standpoint.
Sure, absolutely. So I would be remiss if I didn't say I lead a team of five stellar rock stars who are just absolutely killing it with both Power My Drive and Power My Fleet. Of course, big shoes to fill with you in the outreach and education space. But as far as the commercial programs go, yeah, we've got a lot going on right now. And so we can start with DC fast charging for sure. DC fast charging under the Consumers Energy Power My Drive program is one of our programs that is staying a pilot, but we do have 100 total DC fast charger rebates that we are working on getting out the door right now. So each site will get a $70,000 rebate, and we require them to install at least 150 kilowatts of power. Typically two ports, shared power. We're seeing a lot of sites actually go higher than 150 kW, which is great. And of those 100 rebates that we have available, 22 are paid out right now. And we've got all kinds of projects in progress that you're going to see coming online over the summer. So that's really exciting. Of those 100, 25 are NEVI sites. So the National EV Infrastructure Program, I'm sure you've talked about quite a few times as I listen to your podcast. And I know you were talking with Abbas from Ready. He's got the Ready team has quite a few of those 25 sites in our service territory, 41 in Michigan total. So 25 out of 41 ain't bad. We're happy to see all those new projects coming to consumers' territory. Each of those NEVI sites will have four 150 kilowatt fast chargers. So really going to ease range anxiety, make all the lives of EV drivers much easier as you're traveling around Michigan. Um, I will say, getting a 700 kVA transformer with supply chain issues, that is one of our challenges right now, but we're coordinating very closely with our demand planning team, supply chain, and making sure that we have those long lead time orders in now. So when the chargers are ready to be installed, we have a transformer to power them.
So we do expect to see a lot of those in the ground this year. I mean, we're kind of getting into construction season now that hopefully the last snow is over.
We'll at least see a few coming in this year. Maybe next year, I would imagine the bulk of those projects will be done.
Is that kind of due to the bureaucracy associated with the NEVI funding, or kind of what's the whole, you mentioned the
Yeah,
transformers, but what's a
sure.
typical holdup?
So to some extent, yes, I would say so. The National EV Infrastructure Program is obviously executed at a federal level, and then that trickles down to MDOT. And so MDOT has a kind of a contract requirement that they engage with each site host, and that it's a little lengthier of a process. So they're going through all of that right now, making sure all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, getting those contracts in place with each NEVI site host. And from there, once we have all of those fine details in line, then we can start kicking those projects off. But we do see quite a few are ready to move, so that's good news. And to the extent possible, we're going to try to get as many in the ground this year as we can.
Okay, cool. In time for
Yeah,
travel season.
it's exciting
Yeah.
for sure.
Now, what about Tesla NACS? Kind of what are you seeing in that space? Are the installers putting in NACS ports already? Or like a boss told me last time, well, we're kind of sticking with CCS because, Tesla drivers will often have an adapter and, the Ford vehicles and some of the others aren't quite ready yet to accept the NACS connectors. Is that kind of what you're seeing as well?
Yeah, we're seeing that for sure. Each site will have two ports typically, right? And so maybe one CCS and one NACS port. And I think, they're easier to swap out than we might imagine. So as time progresses and we switch completely over to NACS, those charge ports will be easy to swap out the cord and the plug.
Hmm.
But yeah, typically one of each right now. And I think that's a good setup to get everybody ready, and make sure we're serving the vehicles that are currently on the roads now.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears to level two. I
Yeah,
know
absolutely.
there's been a lot of focus on DC fast charging, and that's kind of where the industry's going. But as you know, I have a personal interest in level two for a number of reasons, overnight accommodations, and I have a motorcycle that can't take CCS or any kind of DC fast charging yet. So I like to see more level two. So walk us through what's happening in that space as far as
Sure.
consumers is concerned. I kind of remember a focus on overnight accommodations, on multifamily units, workplace charging centers. So let's talk to us about that.
Yeah, so under the PowerMIDrive program, we put a really big focus on level two charging in our latest rate case. And so, with approval that we received on March 1st, we're in the middle of transitioning quite a few of our level two pilots to permanent and also including a new workplace offering, which is great. So, we're looking at level two locations where an EV driver is traveling. Has a place to stay overnight. So that's our overnight destination and long-term parking. So hotels, motels, campgrounds, airport parking lots. We have a rebate of $7,500 for a couple different configuration options for overnight destination. Looking at two level two charge ports on 100 amps of service, two NEMA 1450 outlets, or five level one charge ports, 20 amps each. So giving some options to site hosts there who may be trying to make the finances work. And that still gives EV drivers a place to plug in overnight. Um, this program is going to require all the chargers be separately metered and on our time of use electric rate, which is a cheaper cost to charge or use that electricity during the off-peak hours, has better benefits for the grid, and really helps us demonstrate the efficacy of our programs to the MPSC or Michigan Public Service Commission. So that's overnight charging. We also, like you mentioned, we have our multifamily charger rebates. So we know that access to a charging station for those who are tenants in a multifamily property, apartment, condo, even senior living community, dorms, typically you're parking your vehicle in a public or shared parking lot. You don't have your own private garage to put in a home charger. So that's a barrier to EV adoption that we want to recognize and help, bridge that gap, build equity and access to charging. So multifamily properties, we have level two charger rebates. They have a couple of options there. They can do two level two charge ports, again on 100 amps of service, two NEMA 1450 outlets, on 100 amps of service, of course, and then also separately metering those on the time of use rate. And one of the cool things that we also offer for property managers that want to install chargers here, if 80% or better of the charging happens off peak, meaning it avoids those hours of 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, they get a $20 bill credit each month for the first 12 months those chargers are installed. And so far, we've seen all of the site hosts that have participated and installed under this program have qualified for that $20 monthly bill credit each month, which is a great incentive. Helps encourage the property managers to communicate that to EV driving tenants. Yes, program has been a real success, and that's also a permanent program offering currently. So, no big changes to the multifamily property program this year. But we also have a community charging rebate program for level two chargers. Can be two level two charge ports, NEMA 1450 outlets, or five 20-volt outlets. So this is a
20,
program that
20 amp?
targets
I think you said 20 volt. Or did you mean 120
tw-
volt or 20 amps?
120 volt, 20 amp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So like a level one.
Yeah, yep,
Okay.
basically level one charging. And that is really working with municipalities. So the city of XYZ, wants to bring chargers to their community, looking at, public parking lots, curbside locations. We've even seen some businesses and municipalities partner there. We just had the city of Rockford installed some chargers in a downtown library parking lot. So it's right near a residential neighborhood. That's one of the qualifiers that we're looking for. Close proximity to at least one multifamily property or community or a residential neighborhood. So these community chargers just further bridge that gap in equitable access to charging for those who may not have access to a charger at home. So that's a really successful program. That was started off last year as a pilot with 25 total rebates available. And we just got approval to kind of relaunch that as a permanent offering. So standing rebates there, no more limits. We were limiting that to one rebate per applicant. And now, if you want to go in and put in 4 charge ports, we can double that rebate amount. So hopefully we see economy of scale there and communities are choosing to invest in putting more than just 2 ports, which is great. And then so we've talked about multifamily, community, overnight destination, or long-term duration parking. And then the next one we've got is workplace. So that's a new one. We're really excited for that one because we see a lot of this, and we'll get into PowerMIFleet. But when we talk to customers in PowerMIFleet, maybe they're not ready to buy a fleet of vehicles yet, but they love to put in chargers for their employees to start. So we're getting ready to launch this new workplace charging program. Again, level 2 charge ports on 100 amps of service, separate meter, time of use rate to encourage that off-peak charging. We're really excited to see this one go live probably in the next couple of months here. We're working on building out the website, terms and conditions, all that fun stuff I'm sure you remember. So we are really, really excited for this one. I think we're going to see this one take off a lot this year.
Bethany, I don't know how you do what you do. I think you need to take a breath here. That's a lot
We've
to
got a lot going on. Absolutely.
and I have a couple follow-up questions, and I hope I remember those. First of all, any specific programs for income qualified areas? And then the other thing I was thinking of, you mentioned some level one charging, and when I was in San Diego recently, I saw that there was at the University of California, San Diego, they put in a ton of low power chargers for people that
Mm-hmm.
were working at the hospital because they work 12-hour shifts. And so they really just want their
Yeah,
car charged by the end of the shift. So they don't really care whether their car is charging at 2 kilowatts or 10 kilowatts, as long
right.
as the car is done. And what they were doing is they were balancing their microgrid. But my question really is this, in a multifamily dwelling kind of situation, let's say you put in 2 level 2, 10 kilowatt type chargers,
Sure.
and really that car is going to be done charging, at least the way I drive, for example, that car will be done charging at 2 a.m. or whatever. And then you're not necessarily going to want to go and move your car for the next person. So is there any messaging or any kind of thoughts about maybe putting more lower power charge ports so that people can just plug in and stay plugged in, but then you can service more cars without having to swap cars at inconvenient hours?
Sure. I mean, I think that, part of our outreach and education, especially with the multifamily property managers, right, is to help them communicate charging etiquette, first of all, to the tenants that have an EV, making sure that everyone has access to those charge ports and not somebody parking there after the charge is completed for hours at a time, right?
Idle
But
fees,
also,
right? Idle
yeah, the
fees.
idle fees certainly can help. The other thing with these permanent programs, economies of scale, right? So we're previously limiting to, one rebate per property. Now that we have the ability to open these up as permanent offerings, we're hoping that, they would install more and take advantage of a duplicate rebate, right? So um, more charge ports, more access. And again, with that time of use rate, it's cheaper to charge off peak or overnight. So hopefully everybody can plug in overnight and then wake up with a full charge and get out, get on their way to wherever they're going.
Yeah. Do you see any partnering going on? Like I know Ready, for example, and Blink and some others, they have different business models than some other charging networks where they will actually pay to do a lot of the installation up front, obviously take advantage of the rebates, but property owners tend to be very cost sensitive. Like they don't necessarily want to go out and spend 10,000 bucks to put chargers in. because they don't really understand the business model, how they're going to
Sure.
recover those costs. Do you see any partnerships still going on in that space?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're definitely seeing that with Ready. There are some other even electricians that are getting into this space where they're entering into agreement with the site host, whether it's a municipality or a property owner. They get access to the site via an easement agreement. We don't really get involved in that. We let them kind of make those agreements. And then with the separate meter requirement that we now have for these programs, the meter can go in the name of the electrician or, the charging station site host essentially. So they're paying the electric bill, maybe giving a cut of the proceeds to whoever the property owner is. Um, and they are able to own and operate those chargers there. That's their bread and butter. So if something happens to the chargers, they're more incentivized to get out there and make sure they're up and running, maintaining that uptime. We look at a 97% uptime requirement, which I will say, frankly, is a bit hard to measure at this point. But that is one of the requirements for NEVI. And so we're trying to apply that equally across all of our programs to make sure that we're not just rebating the infrastructure and then walking away, right? We want to make sure that it's functional, operational, and able to be used by any EV driver who plugs in because, it's range anxiety, but it's also making sure if that's the only charger in a, 50-mile radius and you're dependent on that one and you pull up and it's not functional, that's a really bad experience we want to avoid. So definitely seeing that.
Very cool.
Yeah,
A couple more follow-up questions. Are you able to share any of the locations of the community charging centers? Because that for me personally would be cool. Like, hey, can I go into this community
sure.
and actually along those lines, can anybody charge on those typically, or they tend to be like for the residents of a particular area?
No, so far they're open to the public. We require them to be in a publicly accessible parking lot or curbside location. Of the original 25 in the pilot, we have 18 that are in progress. Of those 18, three have been paid out. So we see some level two chargers in Holly, Davison, and just recently Rockford. We're seeing, I won't share all of the sites until they're online, but of course we're seeing them registered on PlugShare. So if you're an EV driver, you know about PlugShare. That's the
Yep.
best place to check out any new chargers as they come online.
Okay, sounds good. And
Yeah.
then for workplace charging, again, something I noticed on a recent trip to California, I was staying at a hotel that was right across from a business park that had level two charging for their employees,
Hmm.
but it was restricted. So you had to have,
Sure.
a special RFID card or something on your app to activate those. And there was nobody there. And I thought, man, what a missed opportunity. You know, I don't know if there's a way, and maybe this is more
Yeah. You're setting me up.
into
That's
the
a good,
weeds, right?
no,
So
it's not. It's great.
so I'd,
Um,
they could say it's only for the employees that work in this area, restricted until 6, 7 p.m., whatever. But then overnight, it's open to anybody who has, whatever that network is on. So that's
100%. I saw your
something I'd
post
love to
about that.
see. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw your post about that, and I was thinking, it just reminded me that you probably helped us last year draft our testimony for workplace charging. So actually, if a workplace charger is being installed, and again, this is a new program, so it's not currently on the website, but once we go live with this program, if the workplace qualifies as a community charging site location, meaning, they're in close proximity 1 to 3 blocks of a multifamily property or what we say an underserved residential neighborhood. Um, you know, Limited access, not a ton of publicly accessible chargers already in the area. And they agree to allow the community to charge there overnight. We will up that rebate amount from 7,500 to 10,000. So super excited to see how that plays out. I think it's a great incentive. If you're not working, you don't have 24/7 employees, everybody goes home 5, 6, 7 p.m. and you want to open up those chargers to allow somebody to come plug in overnight. And ideally it's a safe, well-lit parking lot. Somebody in the community would feel okay, plugging in there and
Mhm.
walking a block or two back to their home. That's what we're looking for with that. Yeah, we'll enhance the rebate amount by $2,500. So we have that in mind for sure. I don't want to see that happen again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
yeah, missed opportunity, and they could
For
even
sure.
make a few bucks on it. I mean, make the rate higher than you charge your employees, or
Yep.
give it, give it
Mm-hmm.
free, whatever. All that stuff is so easily configurable now,
Yeah, and we leave that up to the site host.
of
That's the
course.
plan is to, kind of let them. set the restrictions as they see fit to make sure that doesn't interfere with their employees' ability to charge during the day.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's workplace charging.
Or they might even have fleet vehicles or something else that they charge
Hmm.
overnight where they say, well, we need to reserve it for that. So certainly there's a use case for not allowing that. But anyway, it's just
Well,
one
we
of
have a
those.
rebate for
Yeah.
fleet vehicles too. We got to get into
Yeah.
Power My
All
Fleet
right.
still.
So switching
Yeah,
gears, which by the way, switching gears is an anachronism because EVs have one gear, right? So anyway,
correct.
tell us about Power My Fleet. Is the
Yeah.
program still very similar with fleet assessments and charger rebates, or has anything changed? Is it a permanent program? Tell us about that.
Yeah, super excited that Power My Fleet also got approved as a permanent program offering this year. So
Cool.
we are again in the middle of transitioning from pilot to permanent. A couple of things have changed. So one of the things that we are doing now is focusing on a smaller sector of customers. So we're looking at schools, governments like municipality, fleets, right? Small to medium businesses, nonprofits. So not the big box stores traditionally, that can electrify their fleet without blinking an eye or needing our help, right? So that's what we're doing there. We're offering the complimentary fleet assessment. We're still partnered with ICF Resources and CalSTART, who are doing these fleet assessments for us for the customers that are selected. So what the fleet assessment is, if we find a customer who's interested in doing that, we partner with them, introduce them to one of our fleet assessment consultants. They'll take a real look at a big deep dive right into the customer's existing fleet, looking at their duty cycle, how often these vehicles drive, how many miles per day or per year. What is the retirement cycle? How many vehicles do you have that are ready to be retired in the next 5 years? And then what are the comparable EVs on the market? And then they look at, the potential life savings over the lifetime of the vehicle. How much money you're going to save on fueling, how much on maintenance, um, ownership in general. So then they come back with this proposed assessment, essentially saying, if you were to electrify X number of vehicles on your fleet over the next 10 to 15 years, here's what you could save. Here's the infrastructure recommendations. If you were to do this, we recommend 5 level 2 chargers in your parking lot. Maybe we're talking about a police fleet and that vehicle is operating 24 hours a day, just changing hands with the shift. Maybe one what we call long duration DC chargers. So we now have rebates, level 2 charger rebates, 7,500 again for 2 charge ports. And then the new rebate amount that we have is $15,000 for a DC charger of 50 kilowatts or less for um, the medium, maybe heavy duty, or vehicles that are operating all the time. So if you think about maybe a 100 kilowatt hour battery with a 50 kilowatt charger and thinking 4 hours to charge, something like that. That's what we're looking at with those rebate amounts. So rebate amounts under Power My Fleet are really reserved for customers that are actually electrifying fleet vehicles. If you're not doing that, then let's look at workplace charging as an option for you for your employees. But in order to get a Power My Fleet program rebate, you have to be at least ordering, reserving, showing us some kind of proof positive that you are moving forward with electrifying at least one vehicle on the fleet.
Mhm. And that's a
So,
good point. So I think we used to say when we talked to customers about this, that a fleet can be one vehicle and one charger. So if you're a
right. Yep.
flower shop or a small pharmacy that has a delivery vehicle and you just have one vehicle and one charger, obviously you don't need an electrification study because it's pretty straightforward. But at the same time, you're still eligible for rebates. So you don't have to be a Meyer, an Amazon, or well, of course, you said you're moving away from that, but a municipal fleet, and you don't need
Right.
to
Yep.
electrify your entire fleet, right? I mean, some of us, you've heard about what happened with Hertz, where they moved a little too fast, and there were a number of factors like depreciation on the vehicles and people getting into accidents. So, kind of the hindsight 2020 as well. Maybe they should have started with a pilot program. And I think you can, as a fleet customer, Power My Fleet customer, you can do the same thing, right? You could say, well, I want to dip my toe in the water and try one vehicle. Maybe I'm
Exactly.
a police department. Maybe I don't want to put it on the emergency vehicle where people are afraid it's going to run out of juice when you're in the middle of a high-speed
Yeah.
chase. But at the same time, maybe this is a great vehicle for somebody who's doing parking enforcement, right? Because they probably run the same circuit every day. So that's still considered a fleet, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We just saw a landscaping company, for instance, that got one F-150 Lightning, put in a level 2 charger, they got a rebate and they're good to go. It does not have to be your entire fleet up front, and it's certainly not what we're seeing. Not every vehicle is on the same retirement cycle, typically,
Sure.
2, 3, 4 vehicles in a year. And so if you want to try out just one, see how it goes. That's why it's so important for us, word of mouth. We want to make sure that these customers that are electrifying have a good experience, can come back and show, here's how much we've saved. And so one of the things I'm really excited about right now is the school districts. The EPA Clean School Bus Grant money is out there. Our rebates are stackable with federal or state grant money. And so we're seeing these EPA Clean School Bus Awards going out. And in many cases, the entire cost of the vehicle and most of the charging infrastructure is being covered by the EPA, but then they come to us and they need support with make ready. So upgrading the transformer at the site, making sure that the power is adequate there to handle the load of the new chargers. And so we have make ready funds available through PowerMIFleet still.
So make
Um,
ready, just for those that don't understand it,
yeah.
that's everything on the utility side of the meter,
Yep,
right?
up to
Okay.
the meter. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. So we're helping them with those upgrades. And then, making sure that they have all their questions answered. We're seeing a lot of schools come to us and say, hey, I'd like to submit an application. It'll look good for us if we have this fleet assessment done. So it, shows we're making progress, we're serious about this. We have the numbers in order, and it makes sense for us to get electric school buses. So
Mhm.
yeah, great to see. And we're all over the place trying to get these customers the support that they need to go electric.
Mhm. So speaking of support, if somebody's interested in this, what's the best way to get started? Is it still consumersenergy.com/EV, or are there some
Yeah,
URLs, vanity URLs that they should be checking out?
sure. Slash EV is probably the easiest to remember, but if you are multifamily property, municipality, you're thinking about wanting to encourage your workplace to invest in chargers, hotel, motel, campground, consumersenergy.com/business EV is the link to our landing page for all of our commercial programs. Again, that stuff is all in progress of being modified right now. So in the next couple months, you're going to see some big changes there as we get all of these programs kind of consolidated and streamlined and make sure all the information is up to date in accordance with our latest rate case. So you'll see those coming soon. But yeah, business/business EV is the best place to go. And we're actually adding a button. We've got so many programs in flight and so many different offerings that we're actually making a button that says like, not sure what rebate is right for me. Click here. It'll generate an email to us, and then we can reach out and call directly, have that conversation, hear what their goals are, and find a program that's right for them.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the team is small but mighty, so
Absolutely.
everybody knows everybody else. So if it goes to, let's say, residential programs and it really isn't residential,
Yeah,
it's gonna get
exactly.
routed to the right person. It's not gonna, drop through
Yeah,
the
we're a
cracks or anything
close-knit
like that.
team. Yep,
Yep.
definitely.
So any final thoughts about the programs or the commercial programs? And anything else that's going on that you can share?
I don't think so. I think I probably talked your ear off. That's about enough. Yeah, we've got programs for every kind of business sector that there is. If you're looking for charging rebates and you're a commercial customer of Consumers Energy, give us a shout. Send us an interest form on the website. We're here to help, and we've got big things in the works here. So all of these permanent programs, when we go live, we're not going to be restricted like we were with the pilots to one rebate per location. So super excited there, and just excited to be part of this revolution. It's really cool.
Yeah, and you're the right person for it. I can't
Thanks.
believe how much you just rattled off. So, again, I don't know how you breathe and how you do what you do. It's just amazing. And we didn't even talk about residential programs, which isn't in your wheelhouse. But one of these days we'll get someone from that program. But just real quick, the home charger rebates continue. And we still have the smart charging. I say we, I'm not there anymore, but the smart
You're part
charging
of the
incentive.
collective we. Yes,
Yeah,
smart
yeah.
charging incentive is still available,
Okay.
$10 per month credit,
And
right, for
yeah,
off-peak charging
and it's per vehicle, right? So
per vehicle.
if you get a new EV or a plug-in hybrid or an electric motorcycle, I recently, enrolled my motorcycle.
Absolutely, that
It's
counts
that's
too.
yeah, as long as it's level 2 charging.
Yeah.
So All right. Well, Bethany, thanks so much for being with us and sharing those programs.
Sure,
I'll probably loop back with you, 6 months, a year, see how things are going, see what chargers are out
please do.
there. So great
Great.
talking to you. And
Likewise, thanks for having me.
yeah. All right. And to our guests, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed or learned from this episode of Zero E Michigan, please subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Visit our YouTube channel for other related videos at youtube.com/@0E-Michigan.